Hi, my name is William, and welcome to Me and My Puzzles. Braid's puzzles have been praised with adjectives like brilliant and mind-bending, and those are fair words to use, but what makes these puzzles so good? I think that it can be summed up in one word: minimalism. There's never an irrelevant box placed arbitrarily in the level. There's never a puzzle where the player is not confronted with a new concept. There's not even a starting menu. The levels only contain what is absolutely necessary for the puzzle to work. The effects of this are threefold. First, it makes the puzzle itself as clear as possible. Walk into a new room, and you'll almost immediately understand what you have to do. I have to use one key to unlock two doors. I have to get to that ledge, and I know that I can't jump there normally. I have to climb this ladder, but there's a Goomba in the way. Because of the clear-cut nature of the goals, and the complete lack of unnecessary objects, almost every puzzle can fit entirely into one screenshot, making the puzzles themselves more approachable. If the player doesn't even have an idea of how to begin solving your puzzle, then you, the designer, have failed. Braid avoids this problem by stripping away unnecessary features that might clog a player's understanding of the puzzle. Second, the puzzles never feel artificially difficult. An artificially difficult puzzle might raise its difficulty by requiring the player to input hundreds or thousands of different button combinations. That's a difficult task, yes, but a difficult puzzle, it is not. A good puzzle should test the player's ingenuity, not their ability to sift through options that are meaningless in terms of solving the actual puzzle. If, by stripping away the inconsequential additions, the puzzle becomes trivial to solve, then it was likely not a good puzzle in the first place. When a puzzle is difficult but simple, like Fragile Companion or Crossing the Gap, it becomes so much more satisfying for the player to solve. This satisfaction is, by and large, the reason people play puzzle games like Braid and Portal. Watering it down with useless components only takes away the appeal of the genre as a whole. Thirdly, the minimalism does not just relate to how the puzzles are presented and designed, but also to how they relate to one another. The puzzles never go over a concept again. This has two positive effects. It makes sure the player is always challenged. Doing something you've already done is easy and devoid of that essential satisfaction. And it makes sure that the player never feels like the game is wasting their time with concepts they already understand. To waste a player's time is to encourage them to put down your game. Now, designing with this reductionist philosophy in mind doesn't mean that you will end up with something boring, nor does it mean that you'll end up with something that looks like Thomas Was Alone. It means that you will end up with puzzles that are more interesting and more satisfying. Here are two techniques you could use in order to bring your puzzle design in line with Braid's. Take away everything that is not necessary to solve your puzzle. If you have to have an enemy here or a deadly gap there, and they are essential to the puzzle, then keep them. Once you eliminate everything else, ask yourself, is this challenging? Is this interesting? Is this necessary? If it isn't challenging, that's fine. One of my favorite puzzles in Braid isn't particularly difficult. I like it because it's interesting. Some puzzles won't be interesting or challenging, but they may be necessary if your alternative is to offer the player an obtrusive tutorial or some other inconvenience. For example, one of the last puzzle pieces in the second world isn't a particularly difficult piece to get. You just have to jump off a Goomba's head as it flies through the air. It isn't particularly interesting either. However, it familiarizes the player with time reversal, the core mechanic of the game, and the basis for the rest of the puzzles. When the game is stripped down in this manner, the rest will begin to fall into place. It will be easier to see when one puzzle just reskins another, or when you will unintentionally waste the player's time. In addition, you can write a sentence that explains the concept your puzzle is trying to illustrate. This is actually a method John Blow has mentioned in reference to the development of the witness, but it also applies to Braid. Your sentence doesn't have to be particularly interesting. It can be as basic as, you can use a movable crate to cross long gaps, so long as a later sentence doesn't say, you can use two movable crates to cross even longer gaps. Keeping track of when you teach the player new concepts and what those concepts are helps you make sure that nothing is repeated, nothing is left out, and nothing is introduced to the player before they're equipped to understand it. Incorporating previously introduced concepts is fine, so long as the puzzle as a whole says something new and interesting. Thank you for watching. In closing, I just want to mention something. I spent all day yesterday trying to eat my alarm clock. As you can imagine, it was pretty time consuming.